today here the presentation of our toolbox, and we'll give you a very active and interactive discussion about some ESPON tools, we hope. So we start with a brief presentation of our toolbox. My name is Sandra Di Biagio. I work in ESPON since 2004, and I will share this session with three other colleagues from the ESPON EGTC. They will introduce themselves. It's Zintis, Martin, and Marian. So we ask you here to have an active participation in our workshop. We'll have some consultation with you. We'll also present our tools online. So we have 5 tools to make presentation and to see how they work online. And then I will pick up some of the provocative questions that Victor, our director, put in the morning session about who can be a territorial leader. So I think here what we'll try to show to you is that everyone can be a territorial leader with our ESPON tools. And this will be about presenting to you some facts, some evidence, some data to which you can analyze and interpret your own territory and see the position of your own region in the European context. This will be also to tell you about positive narratives, as Ana Seixas this morning, our Portuguese representative, told us about. This will be also to tell stories about our places and to share experiences, and of course to connect territories. And for this we need evidence. So we are here to show you more in detail our toolbox and to give you some appetizer to explore our tools. And this session will last until 5:30. We'll have a brief presentation of the toolbox, and I will just give the word to Zintis.
Thank you, Sandra. Good afternoon to everyone. I have to say, such a marathon of workshops today. I hope you can keep up with the speed. But anyhow, so my task is to introduce briefly the toolbox and some of the tools, and then later we go into details. My name is Zintis Hermanssons, project expert at the EGTC, working on tools, but also on other things as well. So if I come back to the tools, I have to say that the ESPON online tools is one of the building blocks of the ESPON program. Via these tools, we offer interactive visualization and analysis of the ESPON research data, and also other data for policymakers and researchers. So if you go to our website and open Tools and Maps section, as you can see on the screen, you will end up in the ESPON toolbox. We call it a toolbox because it contains different tools grouped according to their purpose and specificity. So we don't have one super tool, right? All of these tools are somehow linked to some degree, but at the same time also independent. We will definitely aim for an integrated solution in the future, just to improve, the user experience and so on. However, I am happy to inform you that we have managed to deploy a bunch of completely new tools just recently. 5 of them are already in the toolbox. Some of them are in the making, and we are planning to have at least 8 tools in the toolbox by the end of this S12020 2020 program. Perhaps you have come across some other ESPON tools, older tools. All of them have been archived with still some limited functionalities, because in most cases data was outdated, and it didn't make much sense to upgrade these tools because the technology has evolved. So here we are with a set of new online tools. Here you can see the landing page of these tools, and now I'll just briefly go through each of them, but just very briefly to kind of mention the essence of them. The next slide, Marian, please. So I'll start by the S1 2020 Database portal, which is the backbone of the program, and we have improved also the interface. If you perhaps remember the previous portal. And in this database, we have project data, ESPON project data coming from the research, different spatial scales, touching upon different thematic fields. We also have time series. And what I need to mention is that this is a kind of a central repository for data. It feeds our online tools, and of course, it also feeds the other research. Yes, Marian, you can go on. Espan Online Map Finder is a tool basically in which gathers different maps which have been produced in Espan projects. So these maps you can search by project and theme, and all of them also provide short descriptions about what you can see in the map. Unfortunately, but this is still going to be improved. You will see there's some older maps, but we plan to improve and incorporate the set of all the new maps we have developed in the course of the past years. The next slide. The ESPON tool, which is a territorial impact assessment tool, is in a way tool with which you can do ex-ante territorial impact assessments. And what we do here at ESPON, we do these assessments for EU directives and EU level, let's say, legislative proposals. But the tool is also tailored in a way that you can do impact assessments at different territorial scales, let's say at a macro regional scale or a cross-border scale and so on. So in fact, anyone can use this tool and tailor to their needs. And this tool is fed by, of course, ESPON data, but also it contains a lot of other data which would be needed to carry out impact assessment. The next slide. ESPON Fora tool is a tool which is developed to analyze functional areas, functional urban areas and other areas. So in this tool, we have 9 types of predefined functional areas covering the whole Europe. And basically, this tool is meant, it has been developed to deal with the data shortages because many times we do not have data on functional areas. So this tool is actually providing estimates, right? And it helps to analyze time series data to benchmark different functional areas against each other. We deployed it recently, and hopefully it will help the policymakers in the territorial analysis. The next slide. Mrs. ESPON tool stands for a tool which deals with macro regions. And this tool, we have different modules covering macro regions. And if Marian, you go to the next slide, here you can see that basically it provides not only trends on these macro regions, but also a lot of policy context and indicators also associated with the strategies which are implemented in these macro regions. So it's not that much data tool, but also a tool which links very much to the political and policy context of these macro regions. The next slide, please. The SDG Benchmarking Tool is a tool we developed to benchmark the Sustainable Development Goals at a territorial level. That's a crucial thing to remember. There are different initiatives going on to monitor the SDG implementation, but I think this tool gives a wonderful opportunity to look at the territorial level and see to what extent the progress has been reached. Of course, to compare and benchmark as well. Next slide. The Richie Core tool is a tool which is not yet in the ESPON website, but soon to be there, is a tool which basically allows to compare regions in a multiple contexts. And in a way, it's a bit specific tool because the essence of this tool is not just some trend analysis and stuff like that, but it's really comparing regions with each other using some of even the techniques you would find in the GIS, let's say, types of analysis. So it's a very useful tool for comparing and benchmarking regions, and has its particular touch on specifically on this aspect. The next slide. The Actoria tool is also not on the ESPON website yet, but soon to be there. And this tool perhaps is a bit different from the other tools in a sense that it's meant to be as a drawing tool. And to explain it, it's a tool which can map soft territorial cooperation areas and initiatives and help people and organizations to collaborate from this perspective. So in this tool, what you actually can do, you can draw things. And if you go to the next slide, Marian, then you have an example of Luxembourg, where you can carry out the institutional mapping. And here's the example of labor, transport, and housing. And you have something we can call Mapshot, a fancy, interesting drawing image, which can help people to better understand these cooperation areas and look at things from a bit different perspective, I would say. And I guess if there's an interest, we can explain this a bit more, and Sandra can do it. I think this is the end of this very short presentation. It was meant to be as a very brief summary, and now we'll be able to go a bit more into details, but based on your feedback. And here I give words to Martin, who will explain what we actually want from you.
Good afternoon, on also from my side. For the interactivity purposes, we will also ask your feedback in terms of which tools that we present you now more in detail, perhaps get you more interested in the subject and you would like to hear more. So for these purposes, we will have a poll later down the road. But just for the first poll, we would do a warm-up exercise. For those that have joined via Teams today, you can see that in the top section of the Teams, you can click on the S symbol, which will then open the Slido panel for you. And for those that have been joining from homes, you can use the browser or Slido app if you have it. Just go to slido.do and type in the event code, which is tools with a capital T, and you will see the first poll. So if you can see, we have listed a number of Espan tools for the first exercise, and we would like to know which ones you are familiar with from the selection that Cintis presented you just now. I will give maybe a couple of minutes for you to log in and to get familiar with the options, and then we can see just as a first warm-up exercise what the results are, because it's very interesting for us also to know. And later down the road, we will also ask you which tools you would like to explore in much more detail.
So in case you have any questions, you can also use the meeting chat in Teams, and we'll be glad to support you in the process, because your microphones are by default muted. So for the ones using Microsoft Teams, just put your questions in the chat. I think most of you now are ready for this first, let's say, consultation with us.
Okay, I think there are still some results coming in, so it's quite interesting to see. I will try to publish the results here. So once you send, you can see the results, and the most familiar tool is the ESPON Database, as it appears. Also the FURE, Mrs. ESPON, and TIA tool are very familiar. And let's say one of the more recent tools, the SDG Benchmarking Tool, many of you have not yet seen or explored, but perhaps today is a wonderful opportunity to learn more about it. Espan Map Finder is a tool that we have carried on from the previous period, and this is a handy repository for accessing Espan maps from the reports. Okay, but I think this is a good first shot. And we can start with.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thanks for all that participate. So now we have a bird's eye view on some selected tools. We are going to show them online. And this is just to give you an appetizer for you to further explore the tools. And then we'll have another consultation with you. So I will give the floor now to Martin. He will tell you more about the most familiar tool, as you mentioned, which is the ESPON Database.
Thank you, Sandra. I will just share my screen in a second. And so for the ESPON Database, we have been working on the database for at least 2 programs. There was an extensive work done in the 2013 program, and we carried on this exercise within this programming period. And just a month ago, we launched the second phase of the database portal development. And I hope also that some of you were part of the recent testing session that we had with the database, where we asked the feedback from our user in terms of functionalities that we could further enhance in order to make sure that the user experience for you would be the most optimal. As Sintis was already mentioning, this ESPON database serves first and foremost as a repository of all the evidence that is gathered by our project, which we store in the database for the reuse purposes within our projects, but also for others that are interested in replicating what we do or repurpose what we do. The second key functionalities for the database is that is the central source for the new toolbox, meaning that all the other tools feed from the data that we have in the toolbox, so we don't need to upkeep several separate databases. It also allows quite interesting and useful functionalities, such as disseminating data via web services, so you can directly use the database in your GIS system or use in any of the web applications that you may be interested in developing. The database, the main section here, if you open the portal, you can first see some key statistics about how many data sets there are and what are the recent inputs and some coverage-related statistics. You can also then go and explore the data directly via themes. We have 12 themes, or you can explore the database via the menu options on the top. Main data, project archives, resources, and data upload. The data upload is meant for our projects or the people that we are working with that deal with the data collection and uploading. So that is restricted for that purposes. And there we have developed a specific system where you first declare the metadata, which will be checked by us, and then you get a customized template to fill in the indicators, and you submit it for further checking. And once everything is approved, this data will be available in the database, either through main data or project archives. Main data we try to keep concise, so most of the indicators that you can find there are standard nomenclature, so meaning either it's NUTS or LAU or certain standard city definitions. But if you have, for example, also in the project's flow data, This we upload what we call via other data means that is non-standard, and this will be downloadable through the project archive, so you need to download the entire package. And why we did that is just to make the exploration easier for the user, because otherwise we will have the triple the size of the indicators what you can currently find under main data, and there will be a lot of replications, but for, let's say, smaller territorial scales and so on. If you are in the main data section, you can explore.
Martin, I think we have 1 minute more, then we just go to the other tools, and maybe if people need to see and want to see more than the bird's eye view on the database, we can show it, and you will be able to vote for your preference a little bit after. So Martin, could you please resume in 1 minute?
No, I think this is pretty much, I think, the first snapshot, the description of what you can do and what you can find there. And we can go into concrete examples later during the presentation if you are interested in doing so. And as always, feel free to write us an email if you are interested in specific questions. We can always help you. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Martin. I mean, as you could see, this is really the backbone, let's say, of our toolbox. I mean, it's a tool that we have been putting online since the beginning of the program. And it's also like growing with the different project results, as Martin said, and linked to different ESPON tools. And now speaking about another ESPON tool with a completely different nature, but also very supportive in terms of reading the territory, understanding the diversity of our region. I'll give the floor to Marian and to briefly introduce herself and to tell us more about the SDG Benchmarking Tool. You are muted, Marian.
Yeah, but I lost my screen. Yes, thank you, Sandra. I'm a project expert also in the EGTC, and I was responsible for the project that developed the ESPON SDG Benchmarking Tool. In 2015, as you all might know, the UN adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And this agenda sets targets for 17 sustainable development goals with 169 concrete targets and 232 indicators. However, all these indicators are being measured at national level. And on the other hand, regions and cities are expected and recognized to play an important role in achieving these targets. So the ESPON Monitoring Committee asked us to develop also something with the SDGs, because we have, of course, within ESPON an enormous amount of regional data coming from the projects as well, and combine all these different elements. We decided to develop a tool that gives regional and national policymakers and citizens easy access to this large volume of regional indicators that are relevant for the SDGs. And the tool is a simple, intuitive, user-friendly tool that can provide answers to questions such as, is my region making progress towards achieving the SDG targets? And how does my region compare to other similar regions? Is it lagging behind, or is it leading in achieving the SDG tools? Here you see the main entry page of the tool, and you see also the 17 targets that are included, and the 17 SDGs that are included in the tool. And for example, if you simply click on one of the goals. Let me see. Simply clicking is not working. Yes, there it is. Then you come at the different page where you can see the main menu in the top of the screen, where the goal 7 of affordable and clean energy is selected. And this is the first step. The second step within this tool is to choose an indicator, because each of the goals has been the team that developed the tool was able to select 4 or 3 indicators to measure this goal. And then step 3 is selecting your region. So if you want to focus and benchmark your region, you can do this as well. And then step 4 is comparing the regions. So if I show you a little bit of this indicator, for example, share of renewable energy in households, in heating and cooling of buildings, then you can see the map that gives an impression of the status of all the NUTS2 regions, in this case, in Europe and the 4 or 5 partner states of the EU. And then you can select easily your region. And for example, we are here for Portugal, right? So you just click your region, and then you can see Lisboa is there. And then it shows you, if it shows up, the map again with the region that you selected indicated here below. But you can also go down, and then you can see the 3 indicators that are being used within this goal, and the status of Lisboa indicated with a blue dot compared to all the other regions that are included in this map. And you can also see the progress over the periods, starting from 2011 till 2016, and we are able to include more updated data if this becomes available. And there is also the possibility to compare the region with similar regions, so that you focus more on regions that are similar to the region that you selected. But this I will explain later if you are interested in that after all the presentations of the tool, and if we go into more detail of the tool.
Thank you, Marian. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I think not only maps available, but also the infographics are very also interesting for this exercise of better understanding the relative position of the regions, and in visual terms, normally they have been very appreciated by the users of the tool. I take the opportunity that we have a question in the chat in relation to this tool that I kindly ask you to answer. So it says this SDG tool is only available for NUTS2 regions, right?
Yes, that's correct. Data is not so much available for the NUTS3 regions, and this is why we focused on the NUTS2 regions. And we are not developing data ourselves. We just gather it from different sources, and mainly from Eurostat, but they use very many different types of sources, but it's only NUTS2 at the moment.
Thank you, Marian. No. So for the ones that would like to continue putting questions in the chat, we'll try to come back later to that. And now I give the floor to Zintis to present us the Fuera tool.
Thank you, Sandra. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
With the Fuera tool? All right. I hope you can see the screen with the Fuera tool. Yes, so this tool, as I mentioned, is about functional areas. And if you just go here, just a bit down, here you can see all the 9 functional areas. And I need to say this, that we didn't come up with these areas within the project. So these are all predefined functional areas. Taken either from the Espan project, like it's a case, for instance, for border areas, or green infrastructure areas or sparsely populated areas. And also we took some typologies from the Eurostat, which concerns functional urban areas, the coastal areas, which are part of the TERSET typology. Perhaps you are familiar with this. And also the maritime service areas, which also have typology coming from Eurostat. And the reason for this is to have, let's say, territories which can cover all Espan space and which we can compare in a meaningful way and which are actually comparable. Obviously, in your own countries, you can have other types of functional areas and even better defined, right? Because this is the feedback we sometimes get when people look at this tool that oh, you know, in my country, delineations are different. But here the purpose was to have this European overview. And I hope this is still helpful. As I mentioned, the data here is based on estimations, 100% estimations. So, and the estimations are carried out by a methodology a bit complex in a way. And if you go here, there's an explanation how the data has been estimated, in what way. I don't want to go into detail about this right now. But if you just open one, let's say, as an example, functional urban areas. So the way the tool is structured, that on the left side you have different teams grouped accordingly. There's data on demographics, on economy, education, employment, energy, R&D, society, and something we call user uploaded, but I'll explain this in a second. And then you just go choose your indicator from the selection, and the map is displayed along with some other tools which you can use for benchmarking data. Sorry, this is coming up a bit slow, but it will come up. One distinct advantage about this tool is that we have a set of predefined indicators here in this tool, but you can also estimate your own indicators. If, say, you have an indicator on a NUTS level and you want to disaggregate this indicator at the functional area scale, so you can use this tool. There's a separate module where you enter, which is by registration, and you can use the methodology developed in this project and estimate your own data.
So, Zintis, don't say everything okay. Now. We keep it for the next consultation. And if you want to know more about this tool, you need to tell us, because we have also prepared other session to go more into detail on that if you wish to. So thanks a lot, Zintis.
Thank you.
Very interesting, as you could see, very different tools we have on our toolbox. And we'll continue now with this bird's eye view. And I will ask Marian to introduce us very briefly to the Reticle tool. That is a tool that indeed came up also from the previous program period, but that we rename. And I'm sure you will find it also very useful and interesting in this benchmarking purposes.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. The Reticle tool is indeed a follower from the Espan Hyper Atlas that has first been developed as a computer standalone application within the Espan 2006 program, so 2 programs before. It's currently a very user-friendly web application that can support policymakers in analyzing and comparing their regions, in finding insights in disparities and similarities, and also finding which regions are catching up and which are staying behind, using methods such as the multiscalar analysis and spatial statistics. And because the Hyper Atlas is not really an atlas, we decided to rename the tool into the Reticle tool. It's comparing regions in multiple contexts. And this is the homepage of the tool. We have Stephanie has really developed a very nice video that you can watch, where she explains all the different functionalities within the tool. So if you want to know more, you can go into that one as well. And else you can just start the tool, and this is the main screen. Here you can do everything. The first step is to highlight specific areas of interest. For example, we are here in Portugal, right? But it's not listed here. There is a number of predefined areas of interest, like all the Interreg programs and the EU strategies as well. And if your region is not there, you can just click on the plus and go to Portugal in our case, and then you can add it. Oh, first here add, and then I leave it like this for the moment, and then you have here Portugal indicated in the map. I leave this a little bit the same. So you set a mapping frame, the wider scope of the analysis that you want to do. You set a regional data level, NUTS 3 or NUTS 2 or NUTS 0, and we leave it at the moment at NUTS 3. And then you have to indicate which of the 3 levels that are used within this tool, how you want to analyze this. And then there's the large scale perspective, which we, in this case, leave at the Europe +5. We have a mesos perspective, which is a bit in the middle, and you can, for example, set it at NUTS 0, which is the country level. And then you have the neighboring perspective. This is more close around the region that you are in. And then the second step is to select indicators. We have some predefined indicators that are included here. And then we can, for example, select the share of human resources, which doesn't work because it's not in NUTS 3. So you can only select here the NUTS 3 indicators, for example, hospital beds. And then you can select quite a number of different years. And then you can show the denominator, which is in this case, well, we go to a lower, I think I selected the wrong one. Disposable income. This is great. Denominator and the ratio, because the HyperAtlas also most of the time works with ratios. So there you need a nominator and a denominator, which you can then see over there. Which doesn't work out today.
Maybe it's the connection, Marianne. But here I think it's very important to say that you can see the position of your region according to your neighbors, according to maybe your national context, and then according to your European context. And then you can see that in all one map, for instance.
Yeah, here, for example, I now selected the share of human resources. You can see the large scale perspective, the mesoscale perspective. So this is within the countries, and then you see a completely different map where you can see the regions ranking the highest and the lowest within the country. And you can see the neighboring perspective, which can be close to you in different ways that you can select. And then there is also an advanced mode with more statistical analysis that are possible. And if you want to know more about that.
Later, maybe. If you would like to see more, we can explore that later.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, as you can see, we have very much in our mindset this European context. I mean, we are a program that addresses like the EU countries plus the partner states, and of course this is always in our minds. So we zoom out a little bit from each individual region and try to provide you with information on the diversity. And with this information, you can zoom in again, and we help you to create positive narratives, as we discussed earlier in the session today. And we can also share experiences. So you see your peers, and you see regions that more or less perform similar to yours in the European context. And this can be also very useful for territorial analysis and for policy decision making. But I go back to the chat very quickly, and there is an interesting question to ask about the reliability and in statistical terms, and about if we can use and perform comparisons and describe how reliable are the conclusions. And we can use them with responsibility with EU. I will give the floor to my colleagues that already present the tools on that. But before, remember what I said at the beginning. With our ESPON evidence, you can be a territorial reader. And I think this is very important, and linking to the discussion in the morning, to become a territorial leader, which means, of course, this is reliable information, and when the estimates are done, this is also indicated. But I'll give the floor maybe to Martin first, has the backbone for the database.
Thank you. I was in the middle of actually writing this response to the chat. But indeed, I agree with you, Sandra, and mostly also, I mean, the project, the ESPON program is so big, and we can rarely take the opportunity to collect the data from the ground up. So, for example, do large-scale surveys or censuses or keep registers. So we mostly rely on external sources for our inputs, and then our projects do their magic. And oftentimes, what you find in the ESPON database. It is also the source data, but oftentimes it's also the result indicators. So that can be typologies, certain groupings of regions based on the development trends, certain indexes where we group several source data based on the methodology chosen by the researchers and agreed by the ESPON ETTC. So there is scientific accountability for sure built into that. So I think for EU policy design, monitoring, impact assessment, this data is reliable.
Thank you, Martin. I would say that also our methodologies and the metadata includes information on how the data and how the indicators were produced, collected, assembled. So you will be able exactly to trace from where and which source it comes from, or if it was made by our project. So, and we have different examples of the application of our evidence in policy making, and also in terms of data gathering and application for policy processes. So yes, I would say, of course, that we are very careful with that, because it's the ESPON program at the stake, and of course it's your own analysis that needs to be done in a way that is the most reliable possible. So I will now briefly introduce you to the Mrs. ESPON tool. Just to give you a short appetizer on this tool. And this is a tool recently put online, so not even, I would say, half a year ago. This came from a very important participatory approach with the 4 macro regions in Europe, the Baltic Sea, so they are here on the top, the Danube, the Adriatic and Alpine, and also with the European Commission. So there was a demand to set up a tool to help the macro regions to monitor territorial development trends that then could be useful to better understand their diversity, to benchmark and compare themselves, but also to establish priorities in terms of their work and to monitor, to support the monitoring of the implementation of the strategies. So all the 4 macro region strategies participate in development of this tool together with the Commission and the VASAP for the Baltic Sea. And we have created 4 models for each macro region and 1 European model. And this European model, we base it exactly on this concept of benchmarking. So here I cannot follow let's say the example of Marian and give an example for one of the macro regions in relation to Portugal, because Portugal is not participating in any of these macro regions, but I just pick up the European context. And here we follow the different priorities post 2020 in relation to cohesion policy. And we have the 5 priorities here listed. And for instance, if we click on Smart Europe, we have a set of indicators that were selected to give a characterization of the situation in relation to Smart Europe. And for instance, we have the position of the regions in relation to Smart Europe. And in this case, we have the GDP per capita between 2005 and 2015. So what we see here is that we see the position of different macro regions, but also individual regions in Europe. So we have the colors associated to each macro region. Then if you want to know a little bit more about the political context and background, we also have an explanation for you with the active links to the relevant documents and regulations at European level. But if you want to know more about the tool, so you will be will have the possibility now to tell us your preferences to further explore one or two of these 5 tools that we just presented. So I will give the floor to Martin, and in the meanwhile, I just tell you that our tools are continuous under development, so that they are not closed boxes. So we have continuous updating on the tools. I mean, the example, for instance, of the Mrs. ESPON tool for macro regions mainly, we have web services connected with our database, but also with external sources like Eurostat and United Nations for some indicators. So each time an indicator is updated on the source, will be automatically updated on the tool. So, but I give the floor now to Martin for to know more about your preferences, about the tools that you would like to see a little bit more detail. And as I said, they are all online, or most of them are online. So you will have also the opportunity to explore them by yourselves. Martin.
Thank you, Sandra. Some of you already noticed that while Sandra was making the closing remarks, I opened the new poll as promised. So if you again click on the small S icon, if you are in Teams, or if you are following us through live stream, if you type into your browser slide.do and provide the code tools, you will reach a poll where we are asking you to indicate which 2 of the tools that you saw today presented you would like to know more about, so we can go more in depth. And currently we have 11 votes, as I can see. Once you vote, you can also see the progress bars in Teams. So please do indicate your preferences. We have 13. We will perhaps keep it open for a minute or so, so everybody can fill out their preferences. I'm just quickly checking what is the count. We have 56 people, so around 1/3 has provided the feedback. Let's see if we can get up to 30 responses. So just click on the S symbol in Teams, and next to the raise hand button on the top corner, and you can vote. Currently, the Reticle Tool and the Fore tool are in the lead. So if you want to change this, please go ahead. We have 20 votes. We can do more.
So a little bit more. I think it's also good for us to change a little bit, a more active role in these sessions, that we stay far away from each other. I mean, we are the 4 of us in Luxembourg, I would say that most of you are in Portugal, so we can also connect ourselves through these more interactive opportunities to raise your preferences and to tell us what you would like to discover now in the next half an hour, that we can explain you about the tools and help you to read your territories much better, and also considering the European context. So how many votes we have now, Martin?
We have 21, so people are a little bit shy, or whether maybe they are also agreeing on with the outcome already. So I think we can then declare the Reticle and the Fora tools as the ones that people are more interested in.
Thank you, Martin. I think probably because Mrs. Espan and the database come out to be the most familiar. So you have already explored their tools, and now you are curious about the ones that you don't know so well yet. So I will give the floor, I don't know, Marian first and Zintis after, to let us know a little bit more in detail about now Marian Reticle tool and how we can benchmark ourselves in the European context and to learn more about our territories and become a territorial reader.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. And thank you all for selecting the Reticle tool as the first. Well, let me see. What I already explained to you that there is these three different perspectives that are important within this tool, and this was also clearly very well explained by Sandra as well. And let me see, we now focused on...
So I have a basic question, maybe also like if I produce a report, Marian, and I want to put all this in the report, has a nice map to see how my region stands up in the European context, I can very easily export this map, or how this works?
Yes, exporting is very easy. There is here in the upper part of the screen, you have different buttons, and here you can change settings. You can download the map and the data. And you can also share the map or the graphs with LinkedIn, Twitter, and also get a link so that you can share it with your own email or whatever. The screen is built up with a selection menu on the left. And here you can set the regional settings. You can also select indicators. I showed you the predefined indicators, but you can also make custom indicators. So you can you can select a nominator and a denominator manually. And of course, you have to take care that you make a sensible ratio that does say something. This is also why this is made. This is also why we included predefined indicators, so that you are sure that it at least makes sense. And with the custom-made indicators, you have to select the sensible ones yourself. I prepared a small example from the model report, because this tool is published together, or almost published together, with a leaflet and a guidance sheet, and also a model report where two different cases are explained. And for example, this case is about regional management in the Norrbottens in the north of Sweden. So if we can go to this region, we can select this region in the north of Sweden. We just go to Sweden, and we can go and select the region all the way. Let me see, it's in S33. Here you are. So we can add this, and then we just change the name. And then this region is selected in the north. Then if we set the mapping frame again on the total of Europe and the 5 additional countries, then we set the regional scale this time at NUTS 3. Now you see that the map is becoming gray again because the indicator that we selected, we have only available in NUTS 2 level. So in NUTS 3 level, it's not available. The large scale perspective is okay. And with the neighboring perspective, we can also take another type of measurement. We did contiguous, which is close to the region that is selected, or not selected, but close to the neighboring regions. But you can also look into an area around the regions that is less than 100 kilometers, or you can measure it in minutes. And this you can adjust as well with the settings. But let's say it's now less than 120 minutes, for example. And then we now have to select an indicator that makes sense. And that has data in this case. So, for example, we want to look into the region is a bordering region in Norway and Finland. And the region has a strong wood processing industry. And they have a productive forest that covers 24% of its territory. And the regional management want to develop this strategy for strengthening the forest and protect it against the negative climate change impact. And to inform themselves, they are interested to arrange meetings and discuss and learn from other similar regions. And therefore, they use this tool to investigate which regions in Europe are also densely forested in the country. And, so then we have to select the territorial structure, select the indicator, which is then forest areas. And then we do the same for the denominator, also territorial structure, but then we take total land area in hectares. And then we take a year for total land area. We have it available in 2019, but for forest area, the highest year available is 2018. So we select for total land area, we also select 2018 so that it is comparable. And then you can make the visualizations. For example, the ratio maps. Let's do that in first instance. And here you can see that Sweden is a highly highly forested area. And how does this work in the large scale perspective? And here you can see all the areas in Europe that compared to Europe are highly forested. But if you look it up and look into a national perspective, then you see that this region is not so highly forested compared to the regions in Sweden. And so this is quite a different picture that you then have. And if we then look, for example, in France, there we can see a number of regions that are highly dense, highly forested compared to the other regions in France. So it might be interesting to find a region here or here on the Polish border that could be useful to discuss how they approach this strategy building. We also have a combination of highly highlighting regions above average, and then we don't look only at the three perspectives separately, but in a combination. And here you can see the red regions are highly forested, not only on a large perspective, but also on a meso perspective and a neighboring perspective. And you can do it also the other way around, that you focus on the regions that are below average. And then this is also, again, with the three perspectives in focus. The bar graph shows, in this case, the number of regions as well that are highly forested. And you can also go and click on regions over here. And then you can see that the different values are indicated on the screen as well. If we go to the advanced mode, we can even see more possibilities. For example, a dual synthesis map, where the meso perspective and the large scale perspective are combined. So this is a combination of two, and also here the graphs are indicated. So, but if you then go to the meso perspective, if you go back here, then from the national perspective of forested areas of Norrbotten and Eatons, it's again, it's less than the other regions in the Midwest in Sweden. And well, this is an important result of the tool, that you can then find regions that are highly forested in their national perspective.
So it can be used in practice really in this perspective of benchmarking and comparing different contexts, and very quickly we get the let's say the picture in relation to the possible question we might put, and how we see the relative position of a certain region, right? I would like to know, Marian, in relation to the data that is included here, is this directly connected with our database? Has a specific database?
It has a specific database, and it has but for all the data that is available, we have the user guide, which was on the previous, the main page, made available. And the user guide has a complete table with all the data that is there, indicating which years are available, which data gaps there are, because and where it is coming from. Most of the data is coming from Eurostat, but we also have data from the European Environmental Agency, GRC, also from ESPON Locate and SME project are also integrated in this. And there is a possibility to upload indicators in the tool, but this is only in the administrator module, for which you have to log in, and then you can download data from the ESPON database and put it in the database that is available here, because it is it's considered to be a bit more safe that the data is actually in the tool itself. So that you are not depending on a link with the ESPON database, and then if the database is being updated or there is something with that, then the other tools don't work as well. So the link made with the data in the database is done via the administrator module. And this is done in the same way, for example, the TIA tool. This is a similar way as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Marian. I think it's important that we emphasize again the fact that the data that we are using in our tools is as much as possible and has it's available coming from official data sources, and the ones that are estimated, we have a very comprehensive metadata documentation to explain how these estimates were done, and were done in, let's say, in scientific methodology developed by the different project teams and then validated also in-house and by our database project. And then on the top of that, I would like to say that we also use some, let's say, innovative ways of creating data and experiences like big data collection and to try to relate it and to compare it with more authoritative data. So we have different experiences in our tool. In our tools, this workshop, we will not be able for sure to explain you everything, but we hope to open you a little bit appetite to go through our website and to send us an email in case you need any help or support, and we'll be very glad to explore it together with you.
One thing that I want to add is that there is also the possibility to upload your own indicators and data if you have this. And this goes with this button, and here you can download, import it from the ESPON database, but also from an external source, and then you can import an Excel file with the data that you have developed yourself. Of course, it has to be linked to the NUTS version that is included in the tool, but this is all explained in the user guide.
Yeah. Thank you, Marianne. So before we go to, because there is a question on SDG tool, maybe Marianne can have a look at the chat while Zintis will tell us more about the fuller tool.
Thank you, Sandra. Let me share my screen.
So here we can start looking at the different regional typologies, right? That we are more used also to sometimes create analysis and to see how the different territories develop, which trends and what are the differences and what comparisons can be done, right, Cintis?
Yeah, well, I hope you see my screen.
Yes.
Given that there is not that much time left for this workshop, and I think there are very interesting comments coming from the chat, I don't want to spend too much time here. Maybe just some basic things and some basic functionalities you can find in this tool. The first one, what I want to draw to your attention to is that we have these 9 predefined function areas, and if you go down and press on delineation methods. So here for each of the functional areas, we have an explanation and also a graphical kind of summary in a map, explanation of how these functional areas have been created. I mean, what kind of methodology is behind it, and so on. So you can find detailed information here. Then. When it comes to estimations, and this is very interesting, the issue which was, I think, brought up by Maria. I also need to show you kind of a brief summary of how the estimations are done. And we have like a screenshot here from the project. And basically what we do here is this, that we take NUTS level indicators from the Espan portal, ESPON 2020 portal, and we disaggregate them at the functional area scale, and this aggregation process is done by the help of different data sets. And here we use, for instance, European settlement map, Korean land cover, and of course the grid data and other types of data. And once we have this aggregated data, we aggregate it back to the functional area scale. So it's in terms of computation, it's quite lengthy process, but this is not something new. I mean, this type of estimates have been done also in other cases, and behind this is what we call asymmetric mapping. This is something which you can find in GIS tools, but specifically for this project, we inspired from the GRC, Joint Research Center Research, which did these kind of estimates for the population data. And of course, then one can ask, okay, to what extent I can rely on this data? It's all comes back to, of course, to the methodology, and if you can understand what has been done. And here in the tool, what we say that these are estimates. And whenever there is actual data from the official sources, for instance, from Eurostat, in many cases, for instance, for functional urban areas, you have urban audit data, and if there is data, then you should use the official data, not this data. But in many cases, there's a lack of data. There breaks the time series, or there's no data at all. So in this sense, this tool comes in handy to help you out. So to show a bit of functionalities, and perhaps the last thing is I talked about the disaggregation where you can disaggregate your own data. So there's a button of custom disaggregation tool. When you click on this, it will ask you to put your username and password. This you can get from us, from Espan. And then when you log in, there will be a separate module looking a bit more different from what you see in the website. And it will provide you basically steps how to disaggregate your own indicator, which needs to be at the nuts level. Unfortunately, you won't be able to add your own functional areas. You have to work with the ones we have in the tool and analyzed in the project. So this kind of custom disaggregation we haven't used yet that much. And in fact, what we kind of foresee in the project is that if someone does this and is happy with the result, we can also publish this in the FOIA tool. And if I, let's say, go to functional urban areas, then here at the top you have a user uploaded. So we can upload also someone else's data as long as you feel comfortable and the data makes sense. Now, if I take as an example, perhaps an indicator and look a bit deeper on what you can do with it, I'll just for the sake of being in line with the kind of the theme of the Espan week, I'll go to energy, where we have only one indicator. It's on the primary energy consumption, and we know that what's important about this indicator, that we want efficient consumption. We want to reduce the consumption, right, in the longer term. And this has been also, of course, something which has been agreed at the European level. So here I have selected functional urban areas, and you can go over them and see them, the delineations, and the data is displayed here with the help of circles. Unfortunately, you can't change the color or switch to some other display mode. Let's say that you don't have circles, but you have something else. This is a kind of a bit predefined in the tool. Then from here, you can also, what you can do, you can choose different layers as a base. If you feel that that something like that would look better. So you have data on functional urban areas concerning the primary energy consumption. If I press here, then we also have some information on the legend, just to understand what the size of the circle tell us. Then on the right side, we have some small explanation, kind of let's say in a nutshell, what the indicator is about, sort of a small metadata information. And also some graphs on the time scale. Yeah. So what you have in the tool here at the top, at the bottom, is a time scale with different years, and you can choose different years. So right now I have by default 2000. If I choose 2014, then a map comes up side by side. I can choose more years if I want. I can choose 3 or 4 years, and then analyze visually, the maps side by side. If that's helpful, I'll just unclick this just to speed up. And so here, what you can see here is a progress from 1990 up to 2000, and here you can see. Overall, if you take all functional years, you can see that the consumption has been decreased. But then if you go up, you have a time scale of 2014. So we selected 2014 as the end year. And here you can see the rise of primary energy consumption for all functional areas. Now, if I want to go deeper and analyze particular countries or regions, then here I have something we call arrays filter. So a pop-up window comes up where I can select a country. Let me select Germany because I see a lot of circles in Germany. And then here in the map, I see only Germany here. And then what I can play around with the values, and I can kind of put my own benchmark. If I put it at a certain point, it will show only those circles here. Let's say, for instance, in the capital. Right. So yes, and here also on the right side, you will see the time, the kind of the trend of in terms of the time scale, and you can analyze that as well. So if I want to add another country, for instance, right, I can do this by again clicking here, and I can maybe let me select Portugal. Let's see if it works out. No, let me see something else, perhaps. Czech Republic. No. Well, I don't know, for some reason this is not working, but the idea here is that you can put more regions and countries and analyze them and benchmark them and see some trends and who is doing better and who is doing worse. Then, just for the sake of the time, I don't want to, because we're running out of time. We also have something we call data export. So all the data you will see behind the maps, you can also export in the common formats, and also you can download the map. There's a function to download maps as a PNGs to save for your presentations and so on. You see there's things loading, so I won't take more time. I think I'll stop here just to have some time for discussion. Well, thanks a lot for your attention, and thanks for selecting this tool. I was a bit surprised, to be honest.
Thanks, Zintis. I mean, as you could see, the tools that we present today, and in general our toolbox, the demand is coming very much related to the policy processes. So, I mean, of course, that we use the data from official statistics as much as possible, as much as they exist. But then the creation and the development of the tools is very much based on the demand that we receive. And this is related also with the policy processes that are on the table. So, I mean, we gave here several examples. We have, for instance, the SDG tool, we have the FORE, we have the macro-regional tool. So all these tools are very much aimed to support policy making and to provide policymakers and with evidence. And of course, as we discussed in the session in the morning, also to empower authorities at all geographical levels with information that could be useful to compare their territory in the European perspective. So this is the basic main set of our tools. There is a demand, and then we try to fill in this demand to develop the tool together with scientists and consultants that then could be used in practice for practitioners and policymakers. So maybe we give just 1 or 2 minutes if you would like to put some questions on the chat. And in the meanwhile, of course, we will highly recommend you to have a look at our toolbox that is online and to come back to us with your comments and your ideas, suggestions, and also to ask us for support in case you are interested in using it in practice and in testing it in your daily activities. We'll be very much willing to support you in this process. I don't know if Martin, Marian, or Zintis would like to have a final word or something in addition to what was already said here.
Yes, maybe there was a comment on that we have, or people have to be careful with using the tool because but I think this counts for everything. You can do a lot of things, but you have to keep thinking of what you are doing, right? And this is the same as you using the Word and drafting a text. Then you also have to keep thinking about what you are writing. And with maps, this is the same. Although it's very tempting to do something and then you see a map and you like it and you print it, but yeah, it's an issue that of course is important and people have to keep thinking about what they are doing and what does it mean what you see. It's not that if you have a nice map, it's true, right?
I think sometimes it's also to generate discussion. I mean, one of the tools is also to generate dialogue and to start the cooperation in different spheres and topics, and this can be just a starting point for that. And I think it's also important to emphasize the fact that also linking with the session in the morning that we are not only creating data indicators and maps, but we are producing narratives and analysis. So of course that it's very important when you use one of these tools and you export the information that this tool is creating, that you understand the context and what is behind it and how it was created in order to have your own narrative that could fit into that. So I think we are all aiming here to have this sharing of experience, to benchmarking, which is a concept more and more important, but also to create this narrative, so stories about our regions and the comparison with other regions in Europe. And I think ESPON, since the start in 2002, have been doing a great effort on that field and also on this perspective of storytelling, which is really very important. I would just say that the toolbox is a very dynamic thing that we have in-house. We'll continue developing. I mean, we just also give an appetizer to one additional tool that will be online in half a year. That is more a kind of dialogue and drawing tool, as it is mentioned. It's the Actoria tool. I mean, there will be also results from a project dealing with scenarios for the macro regions that will be probably integrated very soon into the Mrs. ESPON tool. So this is a continuous development process and something that, again, is trying to fill in the demand that is on the ground for evidence, facts, and information. And ESPON, let's say, has his speciality on that too, and will continue trying as much as possible to be reliable and to provide evidence for policy making. So I would like to thank you all for your participation. I think it went very well and very interesting. I also learned a little bit more about our tools and also your questions were very important to us. So continue to follow our ESPON week tomorrow, and we wish you a very nice evening and see you soon. Thank you.